of hurricanes pummeling, floods rising, and wildfires raging. So what exactly is going on? In part one, we traveled all the way to the Arctic, which scientists call the world's refrigerator. We found that as temperatures rise due to carbon emissions in the atmosphere, the Greenland ice sheet, the largest in the northern hemisphere, is melting at an unprecedented rate, causing oceans to rise.
This is one of the most unique and surreal environments on Earth. And to many people, it probably looks like another planet. But make no mistake, what is happening to the ice beneath my feet here is already having an impact on coastal cities all around the world.
Now we've come back to the United States to see that impact up close, starting in Miami Beach. This buzzing city in the Sunshine State feels a long way from the icy glaciers of Greenland. But as the ice sheet has melted, global sea levels have climbed 8 inches since the beginning of the last century. Miami, in part due to local climate factors, has become known as ground zero in the U.S. with nearly a foot of sea level rise. Former Miami Beach Mayor Phil Levine likes to joke that he floated into office by making this the main plank of his campaign.
About 5 or 6 years ago, we would notice that during sunny days, the water would come up, beautiful day out, and the roads would become flooded in the western parts of our city, which are the lowest lying areas of our city. And that was, of course, very unnerving for residents, for investors, and for everybody.
The city is spending a whopping $500 million building up seawalls and raising roads. Measures Levine says helped protect Miami during the ferocious Hurricane Irma.
I actually believe these, we call them these abnormal, unusual, once-in-a-century storms. That's not the case. This is the new normal. We were very fortunate at Miami Beach. The areas that we had invested in, raised roads, put in pumps, during that hurricane, they were as dry as the Sahara.
Houston was not so lucky. More than 80 people were killed after Hurricane Harvey dumped a mind-boggling 50 inches of rain on the city, the same amount normally expected in a year. Scientists say some of that water should have been frozen in the Greenland ice sheet.
There's a saying that goes, what happens in the Arctic doesn't stay in the Arctic, and it's absolutely true.
Michael Mann is one of the country's top climate scientists. He has testified before Congress about the threat posed by climate change. Is there a direct connection between the intensity of the hurricanes that we're seeing and climate change?
There is a direct connection, and too often we hear the problem framed as, did climate change cause this storm? Did it cause this hurricane? That's not the right way to think about it. The question is climate change amplifying the impacts of these hurricanes? And it absolutely is.
Mann explains that as Arctic ice, the world's refrigerator, has melted, that has accelerated the overall warming of the planet. The world's oceans have warmed by more than 1 degree Fahrenheit. And as the ocean's surface heats, it allows more moisture into the atmosphere, making hurricanes like Harvey and Irma stronger with more potential to flood. The vast majority of climate scientists agree that without significant cuts to carbon emissions, temperatures will continue to climb and the problem will only get worse.
The analogy I like to use, we're stepping out onto a minefield, and we don't know exactly where those mines are, but we know that as we set them off, we're going to see catastrophic impacts.
And Norfolk, Virginia knows that better than most. Since 2003, enough ice has melted off Greenland to fill Chesapeake Bay 50 times. That meltwater is the main contributor to the more than 14 inches of sea level rise here in the last century. It may be fun for the kids, but it is a real concern for residents like Kate Melhuish.
So how high does the water get here?
So far, the water has come to just here, which is 8 feet.
I mean, we're talking like a few more inches and it's coming into the house.
Exactly. Yes, that's our worry. Right.
That must be a big worry.
Huge.
Flooding now consumes her neighborhood up to 10 times a year during high tides or after a big storm.
We move the wrought iron outside furniture indoors and put the sofa up on them and move everything that's soft up to the second floor, take all the books off the bookcases and get them upstairs.
So you've like devised a drill.
Yes, we do.
By now.
Exactly, exactly.
Mel Hewish bought her dream home here 35 years ago. But since then, the water and flood insurance prices have soared.
I gave my husband waiters for Christmas.
Very practical.
It is. And
Does he get good use out of them?
he sure does, yeah.
Let me ask you this. If you had known when you bought this house everything that would come with it in terms of the tides, the floods, the power outages, would you maybe have looked for somewhere else to live?
Maybe, but it really was my dream house, and it always has been. So, but I can certainly see it becoming unlivable, and that does worry me.
For Norfolk, the problem has added significance. It hosts the largest naval base in the country. Sailors are coming home from long deployments to a base threatened by encroaching seas, made worse by natural phenomena that caused the land here to sink.
This base is uniquely vulnerable to sea level rise, and that potentially makes it a very expensive headache for the military. To replace just one of these piers would cost roughly $100 million.
Ray Mabus is the former Secretary of the Navy.
If we don't arrest sea level rise, if we don't reverse this or slow it down, Norfolk is going to disappear. That naval base will go underwater. And, you know, I represented the Navy. Our bases tend to be on the ocean. And so you're going to see these bases being more and more at risk.
So it sounds like you're saying that climate change does not only have an impact on national security, that it's vitally important to national security.
It's one of the biggest risks we have in national security. It's one of the things we've got to plan for the most in national security.
But America has been slow to wake up to the threat posed by climate change, in part because it has become a politically charged issue, with the Trump administration actively dismantling legislation by President Obama to curb the use of fossil fuels.
Does it frustrate you at all that this has become a political issue?
This notion that climate change is a partisan issue is just nuts. You can see it happening. You can see it out there. And when the military is telling you in unequivocal terms, this is happening, it's having an impact on us as a military, but it's having an impact on this country in security terms. To not listen to that is just foolishness in the highest order.
It's a sentiment Phil Levine shares.
Well, it's a little ridiculous. Can you imagine debating gravity and debating, the theory of relativity and all the other proven scientific theories? The ocean is not Republican and it's not Democrat. It just knows how to rise. And I think we have to understand that quickly.
So what can be done? Most scientists agree that carbon emissions need to be cut to zero within the next few decades to stop temperatures rising to dangerous levels.
Is it too late?
It's not too late. The good news is it's not too late. The laws of physics tell us there's still time to prevent catastrophic warming. The only obstacle is our willpower.
When we come back, have we reached a tipping point? We take a look at where we are headed and what we can do about it.